modelers, it's Chris here, the modeler at ABR Modelworks. And in this video, marking up the baseboard for track laying on ABR lines, I'm going to show you how I go about getting all of the datum lines put down on the baseboard so that I can accurately lay the track. Now, before I get started, I've already bolted the two baseboards together with the track laying jigs, so they're there for putting the string lines down, etc. I've got all my track, I've got my glues, I've got everything I need laid out here, and I'm going to move all that off to the bench. Then I'm going to remove the original placeholders for the display that was put together, and then we'll start marking up the baseboard itself. Now here's a quick flyby of what's been put down on the baseboard for the display, and all that will be coming up, and the skinny lines are obviously where the railroad's going and the wider section is the road. Now here is the string line running down the centre of the baseboard, and that's where the main line will be. There'll be a passing siding coming through here, and then for the freight terminal, etc., there'll be additional lines. So the string line's got chalk on it. All you do is get it and give it a pull like so, and it leaves a nice line that you can then measure from. What I'll do now is I'll move it over one and do the next one. So now, as you can see, you've got quite well defined lines as to where the track is going to go, and what I'll be doing now is I'll measure those to make sure they're right, and then I'll be putting a texture, or actually I'll be using a pencil, or putting a straight pencil line down, and then from there working out where the points go, etc. Now with a nice long straight edge and a pencil, I'm just going to mark exactly where that blue line is, so it's down permanently. So now I have run a pencil over the chalk lines, I can just dust it away. So if any of their lines are a little bit faint, at this stage I can go over them and make sure that they're going to be seen. Now with a straight edge and some cork, I'm going to position the cork so that it's centered, and then I'm going to use a thicker pen to run down the outside of the chalk. And the reason for that is that's just to give me an idea of where I need to put the glue. Now our modular model baseboard system has a series of ribs running down and across that give it the stability because of the thickness of the baseboard itself. We've been asked a few times how to deal with point motors, because the point motor invariably at some point is going to be right on top of the rib. Now the center line is running in that area right on top of a rib, and I've just put a slotted hole, and we're going to use these little guides, and the guides simply pop up from underneath, and you can have your wire running backwards and forwards. Now we have two different thicknesses, one designed to come to the top of the baseboard, and the other one, like this one, that's a little taller, designed to work with the cork. Now how do you put them in place? So I have marked where it needs to go, and what I'm going to do is just simply get the little drilling jig. So it comes as a two-piece part, a cover and the item itself, and then the drilling jig, and I'm just going to make a little mark there so that I can see where to drill, and then I'll put a 1mm hole through that, and as I own a Dremel, I will carve out that hole with the Dremel itself. Now the hole doesn't necessarily need to be particularly pretty, there's enough surface area there for the glue to grab hold of, so as long as you're lined up, if you've got a couple of points like this where they're going to be, you know, right on top of each other. Now it's a good idea to slowly build up in size, so I'll put a slightly larger drill through it before I put the router bit down there. Now the router bit's going to want to wander, but you solve that by putting it in on an angle. Oops. Now because it's going to have glue for the cork material, it doesn't matter if it wanders around a little bit. So a little bit of glue on that and that'll be fine. The hole's probably just a little bit on the large side, but that will work fine. And I'll just place the point over it just to make sure I've got my alignment right. That looks good. There's plenty of room for movement in that. So that's basically how you do it. This one, because it's where a rib is, all I've done when I put the Dremel down is I've just continued down and removed some of the rib material itself, which is fine. Now there's a little cover that you slot in like so, and that holds the wire in place. And if we turn it around the other way, the wire can actually come in from the side. So you can have your wire come in from the bottom, you have the wire come in from the end, or you can have your wire come in from the side, whichever is most convenient for. Then your point motor can be mounted off to one side. So really simple, and it will work fine. In preparation for laying track, I have used the chalk line again off the track jig to put a center line and 2 track lines down, which I've now marked with a blue for the center and red for where the rail is. This will help me line up the track and make sure that it's sitting nice and straight and aligns well with the points, etc. Okay modelers, this is a new segment that I'm going to be putting at the end of the build videos of the railway and the buildings. It's basically a recap to cover anything I've forgotten to cover throughout the video, and just cover any items that maybe I could have done better to help me learn and help you learn at the same time about how we can improve our skills and our final product, our model railway. So now here's a step that is quite important that I left out. Now before I marked up where the track is going to go on the cork, I sanded the cork back to make sure that it was level and flat. And just simply, you know, a file and a sanding block is all you need to do that. But it's worth doing it because in this process that I'm using for this baseboard, because the corking compound itself is going down reasonably thick, it will give you a slight undulation. There may be a little lump in there that you may not notice when you're spreading it. And so that way, when you're sanding it and filing it back, you'll remove any of those high spots and you'll get the roadbed itself more level. Especially when it comes to spots where there's joins. They need a little bit of extra attention just to get them right. And even more important is where the join is, where there's a point. Because you've got to have those points down nice and flat. So bear that step in mind. It's actually a very important one. So what I've done so far is I've joined the 2 baseboards together. I've marked the center lines of the track on the baseboard and put some marks down for where the cork needed to go. And that was all worked fine. And I positioned roughly where the points were going to go, etc. With the view that I would finalize all of that once the cork was down. Now, in theory that worked okay. In practice, I'm a little bit out in terms of exactly the positioning of the point. So what I would do next time, and what I will do from now on, is I'll mark and put together the points as sections. So for example, from the other end, this set of points has got a joining piece in it, and I'll do that for anywhere where there's points are going to go. So I've made sections of track that will just drop in place. That will more accurately then give me the correct positioning for cork when it comes to the points itself. The rest of the straight sections are all fine, but I'm just a little bit out in terms of where the points really need to sit. It also means that I now need to reposition where the point wire holder is going to go. Again, not a big deal, but it's just saving myself some work further down. So that's probably the big thing that I feel that I need to point out. So the process going forward, definitely mark up your layout as to where things are going to go. That will save you lots of grief and make things a lot easier. Do it on the baseboard. Then mark and build up from there. At the end of that, before you lay the track, remark up where the track is going to go on the cork, which I've now done. And so the next project will be to lay track. Now when I'm laying the track, I'll be at the same time putting the feeder wires and that down as well. So getting ready for the wiring of the track. So now that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Now if you haven't subscribed to ABR Modelworks YouTube channel, please do so and click on the like button, because that will help us grow the channel. In the meantime, have a great day modelling. I'm Chris the Modeler at ABR Modelworks.